tell us a little bit about the Media Fairness Caucus and how it got started?
Right. Well, I started the Media Fairness Caucus in Congress simply because I am so concerned about the amount of bias in the media, and I really just wanted a vehicle to get other members involved and to try to hold the media accountable. The media has some of the greatest responsibility of any group in America. They're the source of so much of our information. They have high journalistic standards that I think that they should adhere to, and I think sometimes you need people to remind them about those journalistic standards. My own feeling is that one of the greatest threats we face in America is, in addition to a terrorist attack, in addition to a major recession, is also the biased media. And I say that because if the American people don't get the facts, they can't make good decisions. And if they can't make good decisions, then we've lost our democracy. And so often the media is not giving the American people the facts, they're telling them what to think. And that is not a good recipe for either a successful dissemination of information or an honest dissemination of information. And it's also not a good recipe for maintaining our democracy, where we rely upon the free media to give us that information. And I ought to say at the outset, I do not believe in censorship. I'm not trying to have a chilling impact on the media or what they say or do. I just want them to rise to the occasion and practice those high journalistic standards and give the American people the facts and let them make up their own minds. And if we help accomplish that either through speeches or letters to the editor or making the points publicly any way we can, I think we really will be arguing on behalf of the American people and doing us all a favor. I try to give a couple of speeches every week on the House floor pointing out examples of media bias or trying to get the media to adhere to their high journalistic standards. I've gotten to the point now where most weeks I give a lapdog of the week award to the media outlet that we think has been most biased that week. We've given it to all kinds of media. Let's see, one that comes, we gave it to all three networks several weeks ago for taking 2 weeks to even mention the scandals involved with the climate and climate warming data, where it was proved that the data was not accurate and that several scientists who had produced these various reports that we were relying upon had not been honest, not given us all the facts, and the national network takes 2 weeks to even mention it, much less point out how important it is. My longtime goal for the Media Fairness Caucus is not only to involve members of Congress, and they are involved, but to be more successful in involving the American people themselves, because ultimately it's my view that all true reform starts with the American people. It sort of bubbles up, it doesn't drip down. And so when we get the American people sort of sensitized to media bias and get them to take initiatives themselves to keep the media honest, which is to say, write producers if they see a television program or a newscast that's biased, or write letters to the editor if they read something in the paper, or write a producer on a radio show if they only hear a very liberal slant on a news item. So the American people really sort of need to take it, put it in their own hands, and to take the initiative themselves to try to address this kind of media bias. And from the polls, they're very much aware that the bias exists. One poll showed that the American people thought the media were biased by 3 to 1 over the conservative bias. You've got poll after poll after poll showing that the American people appreciate it when the news is not biased. In the case of Fox News is said to be conservative. Well, it's only conservative if you're a liberal. We've had 2 independent organizations that are very reputable, nonpartisan, in every sense of the word, come out and say they've analyzed all the newscasts in America, and actually Fox is the only one that presents both sides. They're the most balanced of all. The danger, of course, is that even though even though fewer people today rely upon the 3 networks for their news, it's still about 50% of all the American people look to ABC, CBS, and NBC for their news. It was 70% just several years ago, so it's a diminishing audience for the 3 networks. But nevertheless, the fact that half the American people get their news from the 3 networks, and the fact that the 3 networks are so liberal, day in and day out, night after night after night, that's going to have an impact on the American people. Clearly, the networks are trying to influence individuals' opinions. Therefore, they're trying to influence the way they vote, and that is not healthy for our system. So I do think a liberal and a very biased national media is a threat to our democracy. I sometimes differentiate, though, between the national media and local media. Typically, the local media is not engaged in that. We're trying to tell people what to think. We're trying to influence their opinions. We're trying to suggest how they might vote or who they might like or dislike. Local media tend to focus on local news, and so I don't fault them. It's the national media that have the larger responsibility, that are seen and viewed and heard by millions of people, that sort of set the agenda when it comes to national coverage. They're the ones that need to be less biased. They're the ones that need to be more objective, and they're the ones that need to trust the American people with the facts and let them make up their own minds. When you look at the national media, and there was a study done by California University a few years ago, but they looked at sort of the top 20 media outlets in America, newspaper, TV, and others, and they found that 18 out of the 20 were to the left of the American people. Only 2 were considered to the right of the American people. And those 18 are the larger organizations, the ones that reach so many people. So we need all the help we can get, and particularly I've been impressed with AIM, and I've known about AIM, gosh, for, I hate to admit decades, but probably decades. I've been in Congress now 2 decades, and I just really, we couldn't operate without them. We appreciate everything they do to try to keep the media honest. They come up with wonderful reports, even books, analysis, examples that we use, and oftentimes in the speeches that I give or in the op-eds that we write, we are getting a lot of that good analysis and a lot of that good information from AIM. And so anything we can do to help them, we want to help them, because as I say, they have a network of individuals across the country, and to the extent that we can involve more and more people in trying to keep the national media honest and less liberal, that is a good thing.